Absolutely. And you know what else, Mike?
What's
Motivate.Trust with Lena. You see those heroes? They're all red. They're going for the red hero strat here on Motivate.Trust for now. I don't know if you have anything to follow up with in red here, though, so it probably ends there. But still looking good. As you mentioned, Lena mid can scale into the late game. Holds the mid really well. Most matchups just favor the Lena. I don't think we really see in a matchup not favor Lena at all. So you should still be able to get a grip there. Farm up, take control, hit a good early spike, and set the terms from there. Omega, kind of counteracting what Jackie did. They go with their own farm heavy here with the Luna. So they can kind of sit back, keep building up, and keep hitting some item spikes in the hero. Even if the game goes slow, the Luna now can trade farm with Dusa, or with anything that kind of farms big for Motivate.Trust because the Deuce is not there. So they have someone that can keep up with Jackie, which is the key thing, because we kind of saw Prince not really keep up. I mean, he was playing Ursa. He just couldn't farm as fast as Sedusa, and he was showing up a bit earlier to these fights. The Luna can sit back, not have to join in. The rest of the team can kind of take care of that, and the Luna can just focus on farm. So I like that kind of shakeup for Omega. They go into the Rubik here as well. Lots of great spells to steal. The Mars spells are all good. The Spear could be really impactful with the added range you have. The Cookie, the Kisses, even the Scatter Blast to an extent. And the Little Shredder can be useful. And of course, the Lena spells are there as well. Laguna, not the hardest spell to steal, so that burst could be good. Motivate.Trust, go into the Faceless Void. So they've got the Chrono Kisses, Chrono with Lena standing outside. They do have the damage to play in the Chrono. In this case, I'm not too against the Void. I think you have the draft to make it work, because you've got a Snap to kiss in, you've got a Lena to hit inside. So the Void isn't pressured to have the damage on him. You could just hyper farm on Fearless or have him hit that Shadow Blade into Silver Edge timing and do the damage himself. So I think that relieves a lot of pressure on Faceless Void to actually set these fights himself, and he can kind of take a back seat almost, just kind of get value Chronos for control, run from there. Of course, there's a back and forth here now, Mike. With Void versus Tide, we used to see this a lot in BTS Pro Series 3 or 4, where it's a matter of who gets to pop what first and who gets caught in what first. So if you don't Chrono Tide, Ravage is there. At the same time, if you Chrono Tide, you're kind of winning. So there's a back and forth. There is some counterplay for Omega to kind of use for their own advantage. But I think Motivate.Trust is starting to look a bit stronger. Their team fight is pretty insane on hand. At the least, even outside Tide, you've got Elder Titan with Stomp. So if ET keeps his distance, gets the Spirit off, with no BKB and Faceless Void, that Chrono could still be wasted.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do think this is one of those games where the Void might actually work. Unlike the other games where we see Void just farming forever and just never really getting anywhere. Just having those other sources of damage certainly going to make it feel a lot better as Omega. They do go for the pucks. They have a nice counter towards his Faceless Void now. Motivate.Trust. I suppose this is the pick that will reveal where this lane is going. I still think it's a mid laner. They may decide to switch it up against the puck, but I think laner versus puck is pretty darn good for the laner anyway. So no real reason to switch things up if they don't need to. I mean, hell, unless we're seeing a support Void, which would be a lot of fun to watch. But we haven't really seen any SEA teams run that pos 5 Void that we used to see from Red Panda, so nobody really taking a leaf out of his book. In fact, we didn't see it at TI10 either, John, so absolutely nobody is paying respect to the pos 5 Void, and there's your pos 5 Bane coming out. So, you know, I guess you didn't get your red draft, John, but you got a bit of purple at the end. It's close enough. Overall, how do you feel about these drafts? Do you prefer one over the other?
I actually prefer Motivate.Trust. I think when you do get a draft that favors the Faceless Void, when you give it damage outside with heroes that can play inside a Chrono, it feels really good. There is still that issue of Chrono being a really long spell, so early on, you're not going to be able to rely on it too much for team fights, but you've got the Mars Snap anyway. You've got Arena Kisses coming through, you've got the grip from the Bane to kind of take control of something like the Puck, which is going to be annoying. And I think they've got all the tools on hand to make their draft work. For Omega, there is counterplay. You've got the Elder Titan to break up Chrono. You've got the Stomp, along with the Earth Splitter that can rip through. You've got Ravage from outside if you don't catch Tide. And you have the Rubik to steal some pretty big spells, especially Bane. If the Fiend script goes off and Rubik sees it, he gets a better Fiend script himself. So that is something that Omega can play with. Overall, though, I think when it comes down to execution, Motivate.Trust has an easier path towards getting all their spells off in the right usage.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that as well. I mean, There is definitely counterplay potential here from Omega, but it doesn't feel that easy against a team like Motivate, and we saw it last game. Like the positioning was just superior from the dire end. Omega definitely struggled that time around, and we'll see how this one works out. I mean, last game, Piol's in the mid lane. He was playing Tinker. It's not exactly a playmaking hero per se from that mid matchup, so I suppose having the puck on your end of things this time, he might be able to get a little bit more active rather than just spending so much time farming and just not really being able to escalate. I think I'd much rather see the mid player being able to kind of make plays for the team, especially when you have a farm-heavy POS one like the Luna being played by Prince here. So, you know, that's why you don't pick Tinker, John, because you've got to let somebody else do your job. And it just never works. It's a terrible hero.
Fair enough.
Should be just the
Fair
leader.
enough. We didn't see the greatest impact there from Prince last time, so I can understand that point coming in. Still, should be a much more interesting game. Again, if you look at the drafts, Mike, right, it's very different from what we've seen from a lot of teams. So both Omega and Motivate.Trust going a bit left field for these two games, but we'll see how the execution does pull off. It should be a little bit better for Omega compared to game one, because as you mentioned, Piol's can make plays for his team now. He's not reliant on farming up to hit Ag's timings and all that silly nonsense. He just needs to hit level 6, hit phase boots or travels maybe if you want that, and even a fast wilts if you need a setup or protection, and just kind of run from there. You are seeing everyone in high spirits though. You know, Zenki and Set Zero having a good time getting tips off. I don't know why Zenki's upset about the tip from Q onto Hero though. Like,
Well, I mean,
why?
he lost game one. I don't think he's happy. Poor old Zenki. I said Zero, he'll give the high five back to Piol's, but he does get a right click in beforehand. Very, very cheap kind of play there from Albane. He's under vision right now. They will place a ward there from Fearless, and not actually sure if that was spotted out because Fearless was behind the tree line, so he was out of vision when he placed the ward. And judging by the pings that came out, it seems to be that Omega think it's on the cliff here.
Yeah, I think it's fairly secure for Motivate. Again, he was hiding behind a tree line, so I don't think the vision ripped through, and that should be safe. A bit of a scuffle over these runes, though, but doesn't look like heavy commit from either side. Although they might be able to snag an extra one with Jackie.
Yeah, that they do. Jackie, he doesn't even need to skill up Time Walk right now. Definitely could do so if he feels the need for it, but we'll just be able to walk away after one right click from Van. And while we're here, we'll talk about the top lane. Of course, Van is going to be there on the Tide along with Hero. So you've got the standard Rubik Tide combo in the off lane. That's going to be against Set Zero and Jackie in that top lane and safe lane of Motivate.Trust. In theory, this lane should be quite dominant from Omega. Because again, there is still the outplay potential here from Motivate. But you'd imagine that Van and Hero should have the advantage just based off the Hero matchups.
Yeah, you just run up, use Anchor Smash, get the Fade Vault off, and Jackie suddenly can't last hit. So it's going to be a bit tough for Jackie to build up. Of course, he's not struggling so far yet. And they didn't manage to stagger their spell use. They're just kind of, or stack their spell use. They're kind of staggering it to get long duration off. For Set Zero, Bane can trade with Rubik quite nicely. You know, he can kind of win out with a Brain Sap up, as we've seen time and time again. But I don't think you're going to be setting up to be too aggressive here. With a Faceless Void, you tend to play a slower lane. The emphasis will just be on farm. So Jackie is just going to look for that steady build-up, and Setzer is doing that fine.
Yeah, in the meantime, bot lane, Masteros, he ends up going down for first blood. And I swear, every first blood tonight has been down at the bot lane. I feel like this is the lane we've got to start talking about at the beginning of the game as Prince takes the first blood on the Luna, so he has a fantastic start already. Masteros off to a pretty rough start for himself, but Q, he wasn't really able to help out this time. So you can't blame the support, Masteros. He just got caught with his pants down, and eventually Omega just kind of punished him for it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough start, right? Like, you're having to deal with that Elder Titan early on. He can provide a lot for that spirit, so you can just kind of go through, rip through that early levels on the Mars, but for the side of Motivate.Trust, they just kind of need some level spikes. Level 2 is already a pretty good point. You've got the Cookie Scatter Blast ready on Q, so you can kind of line up for Prince. He is alone right now with no creep wave, so he has to be a bit cautious, but it looks like Masteros does want the last hits more. they're not going to make use of that space. Still a good start for Omega finding that first blood. That is going to give Prince a little bit more to play with. And he's not being pressured out, so you're still fairly happy, but you will have to watch those power spikes we just talked about.
Yeah, I mean, Zenki was able to freely rotate over, secure a water rune, make sure that none goes to Fearless, and that was the case. Because top lane looks like we are going to have a bit of an issue here for Hero now. He's going to try and run. Jackie slowing him down with that level 1 time dilation, but eventually Hero is going to be able to kind of juke Jackie out. Still, they are spotted now. Set0 still trying to go for the kill, but he's been left behind. Jackie needs to go hit some creeps, so Set0, he will be left to die on his lonesome. But he's got a Fairy Fire up. He'll be okay. These scary times there for the pain. Do you know these Pos 1 players, John? They can't leave a creep wave like that. They've got to rush for it.
Yeah, they've got to go back and CSing. Still a good time for Motivate.Trust considering that trade. Like we just talked about it. You don't really expect to face this Void lane to be too aggressive, but building off a couple of bashes, you can kind of use that opening to find a lot more pressure, and it happens again, Van.
Yeah. He's not going to die, but it's just really annoying kind of poking from Motivate.
Yeah, it's just that bash. It's like Spirit Breaker, right? 12%. Doesn't feel like 12%. It's on demand for Jackie. And he is having a good time in lane. 16-0 doesn't look amazing. Considering it's a Tide versus a melee hero, it's still pretty darn good. And even with a Rubik, you're really not slowing down Jackie's farm. So initial farm looking good. And that will set a good tone for Motivate.Trust. Just heading back to the mid. It is slower for Fearless. So we talked about that Lina having a better matchup almost against everyone. The PL is making this work out great. It does boil back to that rotation from Zenki though. So without the bottle refill, it just feels a little weaker for the Lina to spam her spells out.
Bot lane, Masteros, he is going to be able to secure Prince. Looks like another bad team fight here for Motivate, but finding that Luna kill at the end definitely going to make it feel a lot better. Masteros will be very satisfied with that trade. Zenki, of course, setting up a nice stomp as mid lane. Fearless, he's going to drop. PLs is in trouble. Fairy Fire, it's not going to be enough. So there's going to be a trade in the mid lane, but definitely favors PLs and the puck as now top lane. They do find Set0, but Van is dropping rather low. Kraken Shell just purges off the bash pretty much immediately. So Jackie, you would have loved to see that kill on the Tide, but again, he just wasn't really locked down.
And we're seeing Omega really start to use their more aggressive lanes to their advantage. Like they've got a 4-2 lead. That 4th lead is still in Motivate.Trust though, so they're getting more from lanes in terms of farm. And it kind of reminds me of Game 1 with how that went. There was some really good aggression from Smart Omega, and this is something consistent with his lineup, Mike. Like they play this really good early game into mid game, but the late game doesn't hold up. So we'll see if that carries through here for Omega, at least in terms of getting a good laning start. Ooh, the kills are nice, but the efficiency of Motivate.Trust is higher, and that is still an issue when you're playing against a Void. Like Jackie, gonna hit level 5, gonna be riding up to level 6. Level 1 Chrono doesn't feel like it's gonna be too troublesome, but that will still give them clear lockdown to kind of handle the Tide if Van is not careful, and he's gonna be playing at a level disadvantage when he heads back to that lane.
Mid lane, 3 heroes here from Omega. They're trying to find Fearless on that Lina, but he's going to be okay to back. Definitely scary times here for Fearless as he's clearly being focused by Omega, and in the meantime, they do find that Snapfire with the Dream Coil, but Q is going to cookie down to the low ground. Zenki is still going to be able to cut him off here and might be able to get a nice stomp, but Masteros is there to help out. Of course, throws the spear out immediately, not allowing them to catch up Q. But this is what we like to see. I mean, Omega, you might argue it's a little bit early from them, but they are certainly trying to get very aggressive.
Yeah, it's playing to the strengths of their lineup. They do come in line fairly early. They have greater presence from their supports coming out, especially on that ET. They've got good control. You just need to leverage it to get that early advantage. I think you might want to see some of that focus on Face's Void. Like if you can chain stun him down before the Chrono's up, he is a fairly easy target to go for. But they haven't really been focusing there. Just playing bot, playing mid instead, and trying to find openings to allow Pialds and Prince to keep building up. Still a really even game, 4-2. No kills being added since the last time we checked. Jackie does hit 6. So the Chrono is there, but he needs some backup to make use of it. Set0 will come up. Maybe with a Nightmare setup they could look for the play, and even Fearless is steeping up here.
Well, there's your Nightmare out. Still not an easy kill to get. Laguna's going to be committed. Van's still alive, is still trying to run. He's actually taking a lot of damage, but eventually will drop. No chrono needed. Jackie, he'll hold on to it for now. Wait for another day. In the meantime, PLs, he's going to try and pressure that mid lane. Force back the side of Motivate to defend this. He's actually getting some substantial damage off. Just half the HP of that tower already gone, but eventually they will leave. But it does seem like Omega are already interested in trying to get their way into that dive triangle and trying to get some vision over whether some stacks have been made. Though so far, no stacks at all. So maybe that's kind of a blessing for Motivate, because it does feel like Omega are ready at any moment to go for a big steal. No stacks to be taken, though.
It feels like a correction from game one, where they never contested triangle stacks. This time, Omega are much more aware of it, understanding that's how Motivate.Trust catch up. I don't think Motivate.Trust necessarily needs stacks in this game. Like, Lina can clear them out, Jackie really can't. Even though he is going for the Mask of Madness build, it's still a bit slow going for Faceless Void, so it doesn't feel necessary. Fearless will just settle with camps, just kind of deal with that. You're still getting good farm here.
Well, in the meantime, Jackie does end up going down. Van and PL's able to set up and get the kill. That was Ravage committed, but Dream Coil was held onto, and now Set Zero might have to experience that coil as PL's is charging forward onto the Bane, but won't end up going for it. Just leave the Bane be. Mid lane, however, bit of a breakout here as Hero being chased down by Fearless, who has a haste rune up at the stomp. Is going to land, and now Prince will rotate over. I don't know if they can really hold on to this Lina. She does get the Rubik kill, but the tower hits are going to come in, and Fearless has no regen. So Hero will eventually give the tip over to the Lina. Poor old Fearless, he'll die in the most shameful way. To the tier 1 tower. Yeah, Van though, in the meantime, also ends up going down at the top lane. So there's your Mortimer's Kisses flying out, and well, Jackie again still holds on to the chrono. Oh, here we go again though. PLs is here. Stomp is going to connect. They've got the coil out, but he's got chrono. He might just commit here. When he ripped out, nice lift away. They've got him. Nice play from Omega now, just timing all their spells perfectly to ensure that he could not chrono.
Yeah, they're doing a better job here in Omega to keep that Faceless Void in place. We talked about that earlier, Mike, where their focus was on mid and bot. They shift that focus up top. They're slowing down the Faceless Void and just preventing Jackie from hitting some early spikes and giving their Luna more room to breathe, right? Like, Prince has the farm advantage, has the early Mask of Madness up ahead of the Faceless Void, will be able to handle the triangle stacks or any sort of jungle much faster than the Faceless Void can, even with his own Mask of Madness, and they can build up from there. So it's a switch of playstyle. Omega kind of want to just keep playing the build-up game on Prince. Motivate.Trust might want to keep playing aggressive with the Chrono, with the Arena, with the Kisses, but they're sacrificing Jackie to kind of get some space forward. They will shift their focus bot, look for a tier 1 shove themselves. Bot tier 1 down to half HP. Shouldn't take too long with Jackie showing himself here as well. So it's going to be a tier 1 for tier 1 trade. There is potential for Omega to switch mid, though, as it is also fairly low after taking that top. So the swing around potential stronger for Omega. I think that's something Motivate.Trust has to be careful about. Like, they have to be ready to commit for the defense on the mid if it does end up being a rotation to mid afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, bot tier 1, top tier 1, both go down. Still a very slight net worth lead here for Omega Esports. Nothing to write home about quite yet, but bot lane, Ravage is going to be committed. They found Jackie again with the waning rift out. They've got him. Another kill onto the Void as now Arena is going to be dropped at the coils. They are snapping left, right, and center. It's not looking great for Motivate. They'll go for a grip though. In fact, with the Mortimer's Kisses, they found Hero and Van. Set Zero, however, is going to drop, but they get PLs in response. But now Prince, looking for the cleanup, does commit the Eclipse, and eventually will try and go on to Q. But the turnaround again from Motivate. They found 4 heroes now, and they're on to their 5th Prince. Is going to try and make his way out. Masaros doesn't have a great angle for a spear, but he might find one now. Still looking for it. Not going to get it. So at least they get the Luna out. But in terms of numbers, it was a 2-for-4 trade. So it definitely feels like it favors Motivate.Trust.
Certainly does. You still drop Jackie. But I think it goes back to that point we were talking about from draft night, Matt. Your win condition is not the Void, it's the Lina. So what matters the most is Fearless stays alive, Fearless gets kills, and Fearless builds up, and he is. He manages to ride through that Eclipse in the end with his move speed. Very hard to pin down when travels up on Fearless, just runs like a madman once a Fiery Soul does stack up. So your Lina is very protected from these moves, and you keep the game even. Omega still have a 9-9 kill equality here, but the Nephrit lead swings slightly towards Motivate.Trust, and Fearless is getting big. Rushing to BKB next. After that, it should just be damage buildup. And once you hit that point, you can look for just Chronos to set up for your Lina to start getting some damage off. And even if Jackie died, you know, he is still farming well. He's going for the Maelstrom next. He's looking to just kind of build up damage on Chrono and build up his own farming pace. So he will be able to keep up to a certain extent with that Luna. Same thing for Prinzo. He's also going for what looks to be the BKB next to protect himself. It's just going to be a timing between that spell immunity here. Of course, the one disadvantage Omega has with building BKBs is that Chrono isn't countered by that. So you'll always have that advantage on Motivate.Trust. That's the real strength of the Faceless Void, is having a spell that basically has no counterplay, especially with this draft from Omega, and we can just leverage that. Still, Motivate.Trust, they smoke up into the triangle, don't really find anyone, but they use this opportunity to plant some nice wards. So they'll be able to track the farming pace of Omega down the line, but Omega themselves playing in that bot triangle could come in mid.
Yeah, they'll just commit for the Rubik. And not the best kill, but it opens up that mid-tier 1 tower a little bit here for Fearless to chip away at. Immediately going to force the rotation out from Van on the Tide. I'm sure it doesn't take too much damage. It'll be enough for Motivate, it seems. I mean, Arena down now. I suppose they can force another fight. You've still got Mortimer's Kisses and Bean's Grip up. With Van around with the Ravage, they probably won't try too hard as Piols almost gets caught out there on the puck, but he's able to orb away as well. So still a very close game between these two. I mean, your Luna on Omega's farming very well. Prince well and truly ahead of Jackie on that Void. This is where we kind of go back to the Void being an interesting position one to take. It's just such a slow farmer in comparison to something like the Luna. And of course, you're going to get to the point where you have the Maelstrom up and you are going to be able to keep up, but by that point, it feels like this Luna should have a much bigger lead. As you can see, Prince done a fantastic job thus far. Really no contest here for Prince yet.
Yeah. He's doing really well, but I feel like it's not an issue of Void versus Luna. It's an issue of Luna versus Lina. Because I think Fearless is really just going to be the win condition. It's not the Void. The Void eventually just becomes a Chrono bot. You want some damage there, but your Lina is going to be doing most of the brunt work. Omega trying to smoke up to get control of the top jungle. Don't really find her target. Jackie backs off right in time. They've got the forward wards as well to kind of watch that. And they stay protected, so not finding the big jump they'd want. Could take this opportunity to commit for mid. They do still hold on to the Ravage and Dream Coil, and they will go. Force out the Fortify. And Motivate.Trust doesn't look like they're going to bring the heroes to bear for this defense, but Omega, yeah, should be able to find this mid-tier one if no one comes in.
They're going to try it. Van just slowly chipping away, and that is going to go. No problem, Motivate not feeling confident enough to try and force the fight. Omega, they'll take over that dire jungle now. Start working on that top tier 2 tower. It's going to be a bit of a re-invasion as Masaros does get a nice arena off onto the Order Titan. So Zenki is going to try for the stomp, but Fearless will have none of it. Just commits the Laguna immediately to ensure the kill. And in the meantime, Piols, he's going to be just fine on this puck. Very, very slippery hero, just too hard to catch, and they'll have to accept the Order Titan kill. While that was happening though, John, Van does pick up the blink now, and I think if you are Omega, you just wait for this Order Titan to be back up in 5 seconds, and you're definitely going to just smoke up and try to make a big play happen.
Yeah, that's what I want to see from Omega. I think the last time we saw Van's Titan last game, with the blink timing up, they didn't manage to play aggressive with it, so that has to change here. But there's some BKBs flying through from Motivate.Trust. BKB on Fearless means that he has a window where he could respond, pop the spell immunity, just get out of dodge. There's that smoke you were asking for though, Mike. So they will look to hunt. And they are going in the right direction into that a nice top jungle. See if Van finds the angle here.
Oh, could be a nice stream coil here for PLs. You can get it, and there's your Ravage out. Onto the coil as well. They just want Jackie down, and they'll get exactly that. In fact, they'll even find a cherry on top here with Masaros. He'll try and make his way out, but there is really no way out. Nice initiation there from Omega. Yeah, they stacked their spells a little bit, but who the hell cares? They got the targets they wanted. Motivate, they just don't have an answer at the moment. They just don't. In fact, they're the ones now that look like they need to be making the plays, but they're just not ready for it.
Yeah, they're holding back. They're still trying to build up farm. I think they are just waiting for spell immunity on their Void, so the BKB on Jackie's going to be really big. They catch Senki out though.
How long though? Hero is around. Fearless going to join in from the side, and now with the Fiend's Grip out, they might be able to get this Titan. They do get the Rubik down. Fearless, he's just manning up. He'll find two already onto the third Prince. That is a lot of damage, sir. He's going to try and run, but Fearless. All right, we might have another rampage on our hands as Fearless does pick it up.
Oh my god.
You give this man a double damage rune, he'll just carry the team on his back. And they are right onto the Roshan pit. And I guess that goes back to what you mentioned earlier, John. It's not about Jackie, it's about Fearless.
He is the guy to let it rip here. I mean, that DD, just timely, right? We always talk about this. DD before Roche. This time it's DD before a Roche fight into Roche. Fearless gets max value. Great chrono coming out from Jackie as well. Getting control on the clock. We might find more. Ooh.
The hero does have the blink up, so able to get out of the arena, no problem. But if you're Motivate, you've got to be more than happy with what just occurred. I mean, Fearless going to start working towards the right-click build-up. 4K net worth lead now for Motivate.Trust and Omega. I mean, it was a very even game earlier on, but now it is going to start drifting the way of Motivate. They've definitely got a bit of momentum behind them now as Masaros. He's going to get caught out here by Hero. Stomp is going to land, and that should be another kill onto the Mars. They'll eventually get it, Masaros. He'll just try to buy a bit of time, but ultimately will end up dropping.
They find a nice pick-off for Omega side. Doesn't compensate for the lost Roche fight or the lost Aegis. Gives them some more control on that top jungle. So they can clear out the camps, maybe shove in that top tier 2 for a bit, but they can't really commit for a bigger fight. Ravage is going to be back on Van though. They can look to pressure that top tier 1 defense. Fearless, he's by himself here.
He's feeling confident with that Aegis up, and man, look at the damage.
Oh my god.
That Luna just doesn't survive one Light Strike array. But by the time the stun lands, there's no point popping BKB anyway. He's just going to right-click you.
Yeah, it's just too much. And that's him without the full Silver Edge. There are no crits on hand. This is just all her raw damage. And Lena's just a bit ridiculous. Once that full Silver Edge is up with a crit, it's going to be even more painful. And Fearless is just doing work. I have to say, the one thing I've been wondering about Fearless, Mike, is why does he have the area of a circle as a sponsor? Pi r squared. I'm wondering why. Is he trying to say something about life being a circle? Is that it? Like it all comes full circle? Some days you win, some days you lose? What's Fearless trying to say?
I mean, maybe, John. He's a very philosophical man here, Fearless. Maybe just really into math. You never know. He just wants to go back to the high school days. What was that even for? Like the diameter of a circle, right? Was it that?
It's the area.
The area, all right.
Area,
I was
yeah.
never good at math anyway, John, so you know. I'm too old for this crap.
How dare you, Mike? Are you technically Asian? Because, you know, the Middle East is in Asia, so you're technically Asian, aren't you?
No, I think...
So you should be good at math.
No, I mean, it's more... I'm more Eastern European, I think. I don't know. Even my own people don't know anymore, John. We just go with it. Whatever country we were born in, that's it. You know, I just say I'm Australian now. It's Omega. And what does it matter if I'm Asian, Jonathan? You're not very good at math. As far as I know.
Whoa,
Fearless. He's been caught out. That's a big pick-off. That'll be the Aegis, though. Not the real life. And Omega, they know they can't stand around for much longer. In fact, an immediate smoke here for Motivate.Trust. Prince, he's playing no games. BKB out, just going to try and run, but they are still on the chase. With this Silver Edge up now on Fearless, he's just going to keep the vision up. Piols is there, though, to try and hold them back, but a great arena. Masaros, he catches him right on the edge. That'll be Prince gone. And in we go for more now. This Tide not going to be too tanky with that Silver Edge break. The chrono was committed just in case, but it's looking like a pretty big cleanup. PLs, he's going to try and fight back. In fact, he's found two. They got Fearless, they got set 0, but now the puck will drop. Masros does find the spear. And Zenki, well, he's going to try and get himself out, but they have plenty of stuns available here from Q. And they are onto that tier 2 mid tower now, Motivate.
Yep. They will have to wait for the next creep wave, and the fourth fight was forced out early, but they still win out that team fight. That was a great Laguna steal from Hero to kind of get some burst damage off. Not enough to shift the tides. They still find a big kill, though. Lina goes down, so in the end, you're not feeling too bad about that engage, but it still comes out in Motivate.Trust's favor. They are starting to pile up, and the damage is also starting to flow in for Jackie. Like, he is above our Luna's net worth, you know, just behind the Lina. So even if he's not the big win condition, the Faceless Void is starting to hit hard, and it's becoming a bit hard to pin down as well. So Motivate.Trust having multiple great scaling heroes, whereas for Omega, I mean, the puck scales into late game, but it scales in a different way compared to Void, compared to Lina. You tend to scale in utility to a certain extent damage, but we don't tend to see that sort of damage build up on the puck with the emphasis on her right-click talents with, say, the Dream Coil, Rapid Fire, and Phase Shift attack. Just not something that we see a lot of players go into. So your main point with that puck scaling is like the Ags build-up, which is still ways off for our puck. I think for Motivate.Trust, they've got the edge now. You know, 8k lead, 15 to 21. They're taking all the fights. They might drop a couple of heroes. They're feeling good. Omega, they will smoke up. They've got Ravage. They've got Dream Coil. They can force something big here if they find the right target.
They're gonna try. Motivate, they seem to be reading the movement again. In fact, they'll go for a counter smoke play now. I suppose it's quite obvious at the moment where each team is, but they might just go for those tier 2 towers instead, just trade them up. See if either side has time to try and defend their own tier 2 tower, as it looks like they do. Motivate. They glyph up, Masros will rotate, but he is scattered out immediately. But he is going to protect his own tier 2 tower. The rest of Motivate, they won't move. They'll just take the outpost.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
This might be the difference, right? Like Omega, they still had time to go after that tier 2. I suppose considering they couldn't see the rest of Motivate.Trust, though, they weren't feeling too good about it. But now Motivate, they will and truly have control of the map. And this is when they can start to get very aggressive onto the side of Omega, as Zenki is going to run right into the loving arms of set 0. That'll be one down. Suppose on the bright side, it was just your older Titan. The rest of Omega, they can back off to safety, but well, this game is just going to be imminently more hard as time goes on now for the side of Omega.
Yeah, I mean, look at Fearless. He just solos that top tier 1. He has a ton of damage. Another DD in his name. Unfortunately, no Roshan. So that timing's not quite there. We're going to see that Rosh respawn in about a minute in how long that next timer is. But Motivate.Trust are set up for it quite nicely. They've got that forward triangle ward to watch movement out. They're also scouting out for P-ults. They've got set 0 around with a grip ready to go P-ults.
Oh, he's going to try and blink away. Orb towards the north. He should be okay. Oh, Q! That Scatterblast didn't land. Hero, meanwhile, did end up going down. That was a Scatterblast with the shards up. I actually can't believe that didn't stun him.
Sometimes, you know, that server tick doesn't line up in your favor. Or sometimes, you know, it's a beta game. Range doesn't reach sometimes, you know. It is what it is. Still, nice pick off for Motivate.Trust. Not the most meaningful. And P-ult's going to be happy that he's safe. I don't know if he even saw the snap far from the tree line. Right? I don't think he had outside vision, so he never even knew he was in danger there. So, you know, no harm done.
I mean, the animation did go through his body, John, so I'm not sure if he saw that part, but, you know, Lord Gaben blessing PLs on the puck at the moment, making sure he does remain safe for a little bit longer. Omega. Just keep trying to catch back up against Motivate, but it seems like the net worth lead just keeps growing for Motivate.Trust now as PLs. He's going to be okay to just orb his way out. The net worth graph, though, not painting the prettiest picture here for Omega Esports. And this game is just getting worse. Like, Fearless, he's got an Eye of Skadi coming out very soon. Jackie, going for that SMY build-up. But as long as he lands a decent chrono, I mean, he doesn't even need damage anymore. He just needs to survive long enough to land that big ulti. Fearless will do the rest every time. And they really haven't got the answers for the Lina. Especially while the BKB's up, they just can't deal with him.
They just don't have that hold. It comes back to, say, Void versus Luna to an extent, or Faceless Void versus literally everyone, right? Like, Chrono will always give you control advantage no matter what. The one play Omega has is maybe going for that Ags on Fields. So they've got BKB piercing in their own Dream Coil, and Van with Quick Fingers on Blink Ravage, but until that point, it's a lot harder to pull off. Like, Van has to be on top of the Lina and off of the Void to actually stun them with a Ravage, and that can be tough. Finding both of those heroes clumped up, it's next to impossible.
Yeah, Mega, 5-man smoke. They could find Masaros by himself, but that's a quick BKB out in a 4-man arena. Masaros setting up a great team fight now as they just rain in with the bottomless kisses. Zenki and Hero are both gone, and Van's gone to boot. He knew it was coming. That BKB was just way too quick. And they're onto the Roshan pit. Once again, Shard's out with the Aegis. And Omega, I mean, what do you do? You know, it's just such a rough game.
Yeah. They don't have much they can do. They do pass the Aegis to Fearless now, so 2 lives on Arena once more. Shard going the way of Jackie. So there's that time walk up now, the moonwalking time walk back and forth, massive nuisance in these fights. And that makes it even harder to pin down the Faceless Void. Like, with a BKB, with a time walk backwards, how do you lock down the Void?
Spark's really playing with fire, John. Quite literally, as Fearless was trying to catch him out. Well, now you've got that gobble up available for Q as well. Even rougher times now for Omega. Prince, you get on the Daedalus. I don't know if damage is the problem though. That being said, I don't know how he's going to survive these team fights anyway, quite frankly. So it doesn't feel like a damage issue. It feels more like a survivability issue as Zenki gets taken down once again. And Motivate, they're not slowing. Every time they see somebody on the map, they want that kill. Piols now may get caught out at 0. Has that Aether Lens for the range, but doesn't have the vision.
Can't outrun a wildfire.
Just keep controlling the map here.
They've got basically the entire map under their control here for Motivate.Trust. They're farming a lot better. They've got a lot more camps to play with, a lot more lanes to shove out. And Omega can't really get out for safety reasons, so can't really play too far forward. They will commit for the TP defense, but Prince actually cancels once he sees more heroes, and
Piols. Set 0 knows he's going somewhere north.
Middle tower has fallen.
There is no TP. Oh, that's a great spear from Masaros. Can they get the grip? Not quite yet. Piols, he's okay. He does lose the tier 2 mid tower. I suppose he survives though. That's something.
It's something. He's forcing rotations out for Motivate.Trust, buying some space out to keep trying to play this catch-up game for Prince. So they're getting some space out. Prince, that Daedalus you mentioned, Mike, is almost done. And damage will be up, but as you mentioned, I think I agree with your point. I don't think it's damage for Prince. It's just standing and surviving that's a major issue. He might have been better off with, say, Satanic, even a Scotty for stats could have helped out here. But we'll see if he does diverge for those down the line. Motivate.Trust still have the Aegis running for 2.5 minutes. They are shoving in the mid and bot. They could look for the high ground soon. There is a Dagon up on Piols. So Dagon 1, not the highest nuke damage yet. But eventually, once you stack that up in a prolonged fight, if you use that at the right moment, you can burst something down like in the Faceless Void. But look at Fearless. A mile away outside tower range. You gotta love Lina. Beautiful. With her range, with her level 25. It's like a sniper. You're just out there, you're a better sniper. That's it.
Do you remember the time when Sniper was the only hero that could do this? There was that just... it felt like a decade ago now as just Dragonlance just makes it so you don't need it. In fact, he doesn't even have a Dragonlance. He's just hitting with the attack range talent. No problem here. PL's nice Dream Coil is going to snap it immediately, but the save Q is there with the Gobble Up, and now the Chrono's out. They found the Luna. This is not great news. This is a double Chrono, but Hero, that is not going to help you, sir. And they just clean up. Motivate. No sweats being broken as they even drop a casual arena out. Masteros just celebrating. Kind of just sends a message like, we don't even need these spells anymore. We're going for the tier 4 towers. And Motivate, it looks like they are set to finish off their night with a 2-0 victory here against Omega Esports. As, well, they've really only got the Elder Titan to defend with. Buyback available on that. I don't think that helps whatsoever, though. They're onto the Ancient. Omega, they're going to call the GG and they'll just leave the lobby. They will go for one final kill here for Fearless. They'll get it. No problem. So it started off as a pretty rough day, but ends off pretty nicely here for Motivate.
Yeah, it's a great way for Jackie to celebrate his birthday. The birthday boy finally finding a 2-0 after getting 2-0'd by Boom. Very clean play coming out from them. You know, they go with Faceless Void that is set up. They had Kisses, they had Arena for teamfight outside of Chrono, and they had the Lina picked up early for Fearless to kind of get damage into the Chrono. And it's like we said, Mike, Jackie wasn't the win condition, although he did get farmed down the line, but it was Fearless in the early game, in the mid game, that was doing the brunt of the work there. And they just had the Lina that could scale up really fast. Mid lane was a bit even. We saw some good movement out from Omega to secure water runes, which was really important, but they couldn't capitalize. And once they left those lanes freely, Jackie was once more given space to build up. They did apply pressure top this time, kind of jumping the void, but then they kind of left Fearless alone, and he just kind of took over. So well played for Motivate.Trust. Omega, we were seeing shining moments there. Their early game was looking good, but it's always that issue into mid-late game. It just doesn't feel like they get the right targets they want, the right movement they want in these kinds of games.
Absolutely. And with that, we do have our next series coming up, and it is going to be... Excuse me, just had to sneeze for a second there. It's going to be Polaris against Nigma Galaxy C. Should be a very entertaining third series of the night, and we are going to head to a 15-minute break. But right after that 15-minute break, we'll be back with our third series of the day. See you then.